What's up, everybody? It's Danny and Alex here with the very first episode of Pop.1 Podcast Yu-Gi-Oh segment. So it'd be pretty cool to have this on for the first time. We haven't done a podcast in a hot minute, so it's cool to kind of be back doing something like that. And
I
this
know the
time,
Pop.1 podcast finally has a podcast.
I know, right? And we're going to be putting it on YouTube and Spotify. So if you're checking us out on one of those, make sure you check us out on the other one. So today it's just myself and Alex. We're going to be your usual hosts for this. Occasionally we'll have some other people on from the team as well as outside of the team. That's the ultimate goal. Um, and that'll be pretty cool. And we're going to try and do one of these about every 2 or 3 weeks. Kind of keep you guys updated with what we're doing, how we think the meta's going, and stuff like that. We're we'd like to say that we're pretty competitive players. We go to YCSs, nationals, a lot of regionals, stuff like that. We don't travel to every YCS just because we don't have the availability. But that's what we'd like to do in the future, and we'll get into a little bit of those YCSs that are upcoming pretty soon here. But first, I want Alex to tell you guys a little bit about himself and what got him into Yu-Gi-Oh and why he still plays.
Yeah, I'm kind of an OG, I guess you can say. I played this game literally when the first two starter decks came out. We're talking like Kaiba versus Yugi. And I'm a kid back then. This is what 2001. I'm like 6, 7. And I remember I got the Yugi starter deck, and my neighbor down the street, his name was Josh. He got the Kaiba starter deck, and we taught ourselves the rules. We actually like played the game for real, and the entire neighborhood came to our garage, and we had a duel. And I'll never forget. I don't remember the whole duel, of course, but I do remember the end. Josh had no cards in hand, but a blue eyes white dragon on the field. I had no cards in hand, no cards on field. I literally said, "Heart of the cards, guide me." And the top card of my deck was Change of Heart. I took his blue eyes and I attacked him for game, and ever since then I've just been hooked. In 2009, I took a pretty big break. Being in high school, thinking that was like nerdy stuff, things like that, and I just stopped playing. That was around the time Dad format came, and being in high school, you don't have any money, so I couldn't really compete with all those different decks and things of that nature. And then in 2018, I felt like I had this weird gap in my life, and I didn't really know like what that gap was. And I started playing Duel Links, and Duel Links reignited my love for the game. And once I started playing, I started meeting all these amazing people, eventually becoming a part of this team. And, getting that competitive edge is what I was missing in life. And Yu-Gi-Oh really like fills that need. It allows me to practice, to study, to compete. It really just like fills that gap I had in my life. And ever since then, I've just been hooked again, since 2018.
Yeah, so I know my story is somewhat similar. I started playing back when the structure decks came out with my cousin. We had no idea what the deck said. I think, as a matter of fact, we had more fake cards than we had real cards, and we had no idea what the rules were. We just made them up. And then I quit playing. And then again in high school, my buddy Keith, he was like, "Hey, we're starting to play Yu-Gi-Oh again. We should do that." And I was like, "That sounds super cool. So let's do it." And then we played some at school and stuff like that. And then I quit for a while, and I got back into it at college when my best friend Austin he told me that he'd started playing again. So he took me to my first ever locals, and it was really cool. As a matter of fact, I would venture to say that almost every single friend I have met through Yu-Gi-Oh or other card games that I've played. So it's been it's been a hell of a ride, and I've taken breaks here and there. Like I never played in the spiral format, but I've been playing, I'd say competitively since a little bit after E Dragons got banned. I think I started playing competitively about I, I think it was a week after that ban list happened. So I've been playing competitively for a very long time, on and off. I took a huge break to play Dragon Ball Super, which did very well at, and then once I got moved over to Mississippi, I started playing Yu-Gi-Oh again and met Preston and joined the team. And so far, the rest is history. So it's been a lot of fun, honestly. I know I actually met you, Alex, through the team. I don't think we had ever met until I'd already joined the team, and I met you for the first time at the 1K. And
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh my god, this guy is super good." And then I played against you, and I realized that I was wrong. You're trash. But
It's funny. It's funny. The first time I met you, I was like, "Who the hell is this guy?" You're like such an arrogant, like douchebag. I felt like, and it's funny, like, over what year and a just I was like, damn, I was wrong about you. And, I feel like we've gotten pretty close since then. You become like a really good testing partner, especially. You've helped me get a lot better at the game, man. It's funny how our first like introductions to each other, we were just kind of wrong about each other.
Yeah, and I mean, you are good at the game. I think you've grown a lot more as a player since I've known you. That's for sure. Because I remember when I first joined the team, you wouldn't take like any advice other than from the one and only God himself, Michael Murphy. And slowly through proving that I'm right multiple times, we've gotten you off that. But it's been a lot of fun. I think there's only been twice. God, I don't even think it's been twice. I think there's only been once where you and I have played the same deck, which we both played Vanquish Soul for a hot minute. And I would venture to say we have that deck as close to solved as that deck could possibly be. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah,
so
we kind of have. We both tend to gravitate towards like mid-range combo decks. I've realized, so we have a tendency. Even though we might not play the same deck at the same time, we've definitely played like the same deck multiple times.
yeah, which you'd say like I love mid range and I love combo, but I'm also like a if you guys have ever heard of Hearthstone, ever played Hearthstone, there's a guy called Trump who plays it too, and it's called Value Town, and I'm very much a Value Town type player, which is why I'm currently playing Chimera Branded because that deck just you end your turn with a pretty decent board. But what I love about it is I have follow up for the next turn, and then I usually have five other cards in hand, and it's like I just can't beat that amount of value, and I love it so much. So, but it's funny since the first thing that I came back to after taking like a 3 year break was playing Eldritch at a regionals and getting my regional win with it. So that's kind of funny. But
And what was that? That was like a 60 card pile. It's actually on the Pop.1 podcast YouTube channel. It's one of the earlier videos we did when we
yeah,
assigned
it's
you right then and there. It was
it's
a wild list. You play like three Eldritches. What was up? What was wrong with you?
So what's funny about that is that's the whole reason that I'm even on the team is because Preston was talking to Brian Ty. He's a good friend of ours, and he
Hmm.
plays at our locals. Also, if you guys are ever in Mississippi, check out his donut shop. I think it's called MS Donuts in Gulfport. Make sure you guys check that out. It's pretty bomb. But
Nice bow tee. Great.
yeah, so he was telling Brian Ty, he's like, you know what? If anyone here wins the regionals, I'm signing them on the spot. And I'd only met Devin once, but Devin's military like I am, so we were like,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll ride up together, even though we don't know each other that well. We had a good talk, and on the way there, I was like, yeah, so are you guys like signing players? He was like, kind of, sorta. He's like, but Preston said whoever wins this can just get signed. And lo and behold, I went undefeated with I would call it mid range Eldritch because I've played a bunch of other stuff, and it was 60 cards. I couldn't make 40 consistent, so I just said screw it, we're going to 60, and that worked out pretty well. And I've done pretty well at some other regionals. Done pretty well with Math Mech. God, I love that deck. Other than that,
Hate that
I don't
deck.
think I've had the chance to go to many other regionals just because we don't have very many in Mississippi, sadly. And then
Yeah.
so
This
yeah,
season we had none like in the Mississippi area. The closest one was Houston. Uh, it's kind of unfortunate because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but like Louisiana in particular, and hell, even Mississippi, Alabama, we have some top tier talent here in New Orleans. We have, this is where Hani's from, Kobe Shorter, YCS winner, Joe Gray, YCS topper, Mississippi. We got Michael Murphy, even YCS topper. Like we have some serious big names around these parts, and it's such a shame that we don't have enough regionals to kind of showcase all the talent that we have.
yeah, it is. Like Alex was saying, we have a lot of really good players. Like when I moved here, uh, call back to what Alex was saying. Like a lot of, I was kind of arrogant. I didn't think there would be that. It's Mississippi and Louisiana. Like who thinks there's good players here? Like I was coming from Dragon Ball Super, and in Florida, where like all the best Dragon Ball Super players come from Florida. So I was like, yeah, they can't be that good. Lo and behold, the very first regionals I sit down across from Trevor, and if you guys don't know Trevor, he's on the Goo Gaming team, and he's I I love that man because he's really good, and I like that we every time we play each other, it's always a good game. We're always chatting. He usually always wins because he's substantially better than me. But that man has more YCS tops than like I have current the last year and a half regional tops. It's insane.
And
So
ever since he joined Duke Gaming, it was like almost that was exactly what he needed.
yeah,
And it's kind of funny. It's like when you join a team, you elevate yourselves because to be on a team for the most part you have to be a competent player. And when you get on a team, you get those competent players that can play test with you, help you theorize and things of that nature. You just become so much better. And Trevor, it was so cool. I was there with him. He roomed with me and Michael for the 250th. That's his first YCS on Goo Gaming. And that dude got top 32. And ever since then, he's top just about almost every YCS he went to. And he even did the world points to do the playoffs qualifiers at Nats last year. Dude's a beast.
he is. He is definitely a beast, and it's always a pleasure to watch him play. I know. I'm probably annoying at certain YCSs because I always come and be like, "Yeah, man, you've got this. You're gonna crush it. It's yours to win." Um, so
His name's Trevor Commer, by the way. I know we're saying like all these different names. People will be like, who the hell are they talking about?
yeah, he's good. I'm sure you guys are gonna see him at YCS Indy if he goes. He's gonna top. He's
Yeah.
just that good. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit about us and kind of where we're coming from. Both, take Yu-Gi-Oh somewhat seriously, even though we don't always do the best. And so, Alex, talking about we're talking about a little bit of us being competitive. You're going to YCS Indy, right?
Yeah. This year in particular, I made it a point to start really taking my competitive side serious. I am so determined right now to get a YCS top. I just keep practicing, month after month. And Indy is the newest one that I can go to. I'm going with our teammate, Michael Murphy, and I am extremely excited for this one.
Yeah, it's gonna be cool. I know. You and Mike are going. Do you know if Anthony's going?
He's not.
Yeah, Anthony is another team member that we have. His name's Graham. You guys might have seen his deck profile on the YouTube channel. It's him playing synchros. So
That was such a funny deck profile.
it really is.
I love.
That was his first one, so it's a little it was a little interesting to watch him do that, but he was super proud of it, and it's super cool. So I won't be at Indy just because it fall. I won't get to go to any YCSs again before I leave for Germany unless one pops up that's like at the perfect time. But I know I went to YCS Philadelphia. I didn't do really well. I have a problem with people always having Dark Ruler No More and evenly matched, and that's actually I lost, and every round that I lost at Philly was due to evenly matched specifically. One of my opponents even went as far as to have all three in his hand at one point, and you know, I'm just the worst player, which is fine. And then that happened at Nats as well as I ran into Dark Ruler and evenly. But talk to me a little bit about your YCS runs and your Nats run and what you're learning from those to go into YCS Indy and how you think that those have paved the way for you to do well.
So, funny enough, my first YCS was supposed to be tier format. It was the 3v3, me, Michael Murphy, and Jordan West, triple team members. Uh, we were on a team, and 2 weeks before the YCS, they butchered tier limits, and I mean butchered. And y'all remember that list. So there I am. I'm like, well, crap. What deck am I gonna play? So I spent $500 something on cash tier to get it right then there. I took that deck to Vegas, and I personally went X2. Our team, got knocked out in, I believe it was the eighth round of day one. That was unfortunate. But, going to that event, I was like, wow, I can do really well if I apply myself. So then the next YCS I went to was YCS, the 250th in LA. And this was really dumb of me. the night before,
Oh yeah, I
I
remember
decided.
those.
Yeah, you remember this. I decided instead of doing the Jesse Cotton list, which was the list I was comfortable with, the what was it? The two desires, three prosperities, like max consistency, which is my biggest gripe of that deck was the consistency issue. So I like the Jesse Cotton build. I decided to net deck Trevor Commer, who was rooming with us. He was like main decking Gamma, like all these weird different techs. But the thing is, I'm not Trevor. Trevor's an amazing player. He's able to make that work, things of that nature. So there I am. I'm X3. I finally get my first win against ninjas, and I'm like, oh, hey, I guess the comeback starts now, which is what I tell myself all the time. And then the next round, I play Brandon Despy, and I don't win that one. I'm like, okay, I'm out. I'm just gonna do regionals the next day. Shortly after that, I was getting super frustrated with Kashtira. I didn't really love the deck, so I picked up Vanquish Soul. I took Vanquish Soul to Nats, and I had playtested that deck for quite a while before it. And I actually, like we were saying at the beginning of the podcast, I got really good with Vanquish Soul. I made it all the way to round 8 before I was knocked out, and I was extremely proud of that, because in Los Angeles, I had to trash, I only won one game. And here I am, I'm at a Nationals event, I won six. And you can't you can't really complain about that, I worked really hard. I did the best I could. I was able to play the entire day, which is a huge accomplishment for someone who's relatively, new to the super competitive scene. And I intend to take that experience. I've picked up a new deck now. I'm playing Unchained. I'm going to take that to Indianapolis and, just keep testing and testing and testing. And my goal is right now to at least day two for YCS Indianapolis and then just keep grinding until I get my first top. And one of the things that kind of keeps me motivated and keeps me going is a conversation I had with Trevor in Los Angeles because he was rooming with us. He said, Alex, I went to 6 or 7 YCSs before I got my first top. You just got to keep grinding. So I kind of have those words in the back of my mind, um, force myself to go to all these events, even if I don't top, even if I don't make day two. It's just the work I keep putting in and the desire I want to get that YCS top. I listen to him saying you just got to keep going after it, and that's just kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah, and I'm sure everyone that is going to be listening to this knows who Pack is. Pack is
Yeah.
also, if you guys have followed him for any amount of time, uh, you guys have noticed that sometimes his like tops will go in waves. I remember on one of his, I think it was one of his GooCast, his other podcast. You guys should check that out as well. It's really good information, especially if you're trying to be competitive. He's just said like you just got to keep grinding. Sometimes variance just gets you. Like I know I complain about it all the time, and Alex can attest. I hate evenly matched, but like you get hit with that card so many times. Sometimes it makes you think that you're bad when you're not. It's just
Yeah.
you don't. It's just variance. Sometimes they have it. Sometimes you didn't have the answer. Sometimes they have it in multiples, and it just is what it
Yes.
is. If you play, and Alex can attest this too. Like I preach, just play perfectly, and you'll be fine. Eventually, that is going to just get you to the point that you're going to be able to get those tops because those are the games you can capitalize on. Um, uh, so that's always a big thing. Like it took me a long time to even get a day two at a YCS, and I still don't have a day two for me coming back and being on the Pop.1 podcast. Granted, I've only been to one YCS since I came back, but it just is what it is. You just got to keep grinding and doing your best. And for all those that you listen, all of you guys that are out there listening, make sure that you take that away. Is you might not do well at like a locals, or you might even go 0-3 at a regionals. But some of these people do that. Like I think uh, the YCS, I think it was Philly actually, where Pack took purely and got top 32. He even said in his deck profile, I believe, that like he took it to regionals the weekend before. He went like 1-3. But
Hmm.
sometimes it just happens. Um, and I think making sure that you play the best technical play that you can is important, even if you lose, you know. And I think that's just super important to remember. So,
Yeah, and I kind of want to like piggyback off that and just say like don't take locals so serious too, because as long as you expect your opponent to play the perfect game, as long as you play the perfect game, you're gonna do the best you can. And if you keep working at it, eventually that'll lead to the tops.
yeah, for sure. And I think that's something that, like, a lot of people sometimes lose sight of and stuff like that. And it's okay, you know. Like I don't come in first at every regionals or not every regionals at every locals. Like sometimes you just get beat, and that's okay. Just keep your head up, keep grinding, and eventually you'll get there. Like I promise you. So but that's just something to think about whenever you guys are playing at these locals and you're trying to take your game to the next level. Like don't get too discouraged when you're going on, and that's what Alex is talking about too with his experiences. Is he hasn't done the best at YCSs, and he's still working to get his tops, but he's not giving up, and I think that's a big thing to work on is your mental for these much bigger events. So let's transition to. I know we're gonna talk a little bit more about Indy, what you're playing, what your thoughts are going into it. Well, let's take a look over the deck breakdown for the YCS that just happened in Germany. Now, if you guys are unfamiliar, Euros YCSs are usually a little different
A
with
little.
with their breakdowns. So if you guys follow Jeff Jones, he actually made a post about this a few years ago, which is Euro YCSers are like this fairy tale land where everything can happen, and it truly is. I mean, Rika won. It was Rika against Vanquish in the top, and it's just one of those like what the hell kind of moments. Um,
Shout out Vanksel.
yeah, shout out Vanquish Soul. Unfortunately, our boy here sold his max rarity version of it because he got beat by Unchained. But so
No
looking into
regrets.
the looking into the top 64, we have 16% tier limits, which is something that I guess I didn't expect, but at the same time I expected it because people love tier limits. It's a fan favorite deck. It's the most powerful deck I've ever seen in Yu-Gi-Oh! At full power. It was to the point that I didn't want to go to big events because I don't like playing the best deck usually. I like playing like the second or third best deck to give me a little bit more pivot points. But if you wanted to top a YCS, you either had to play tier limits, flu and draw your D barrier or your D shift every turn, or Exo Sisters and draw your D shift every turn. Um, but it coming back at 16% of top 64 is a really big thing. Did you expect to see that, Alex?
Um, I really didn't. I guess the biggest thing that it has going for it is that Shifter's really no longer in the game, and that makes Tier stronger. But it's still just crazy to me because I expected a lot of Bestials at this YCS that Tier is still able to get this top because they only have one of each of the fusion monsters. So I am actually genuinely shocked that much tier limits made it to top cut. I personally don't think it's going to translate to America, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah. So, and then we've got 14% being Unchained. I mean, I expected to see
That's
that
given.
more.
Yeah.
Um, I think that Unchained is a good deck. And I've told Alex this before, I think the only reason Unchained is the best deck is because of Wave King Caesar. Fighting through two Solemn Warnings is just very, very rough for most
Yeah.
decks to be able to do. So, if it didn't have Wave King Caesar, I honestly think that Unchained would still be very good. It just wouldn't be the best deck. Um, and Alex, well, what do you think about that? Alex, you're actually playing Unchained currently, and I know you've been grinding that deck a pretty decent amount here lately. What do you think about that?
I mean, the thing I love the most about Unchained is that it has no clear weakness. Um, there's no real hand trap that decimates it. All you need is literally one popper and one trap or spell that specials from deck, which is extremely easy to do. And you play around Nib and you play around the Bestials. It's the most common combo. Jesse Cotton showcased it on his Yu-Gi-Oh channel. So you get that out the way. It doesn't have that weakness. It doesn't lose the D barrier. Thrust is insane in it. The deck just doesn't have a clear weakness, other than exactly like two or three hand traps to a bad hand. It doesn't really brick much. Um, it's definitely a beatable deck, but it has a lot of floaters. I just love the deck. I don't know. I don't want to like gush too much on it. It's I just like that it doesn't have like a lot of weaknesses, so it makes sense, and it's also extremely consistent that it's the second most represented deck in top cut for Dortmund.
Yeah, and I think you guys will see going into Indy, it'll probably be the most represented deck, just because of the way that Americans play, contrary to how people over in Europe play.
Yeah,
Next is not something that I expected, which is I didn't even
same.
expect to see it on here. Dragon Link being 13%. I get that that deck is very good into Unchained. I know a lot of people are like, "Yeah, you just hold on to certain things," and that's fair, but it's still pretty good. Unfortunately, it's very good into my deck as well, which is Branded Chimera. So, uh, how if you're playing Unchained, Alex? How do you feel when you see someone playing Dragon Link? You think, oh man, this is gonna be rough. What you thinking?
So Unchained actually has a pretty good Dragon Link matchup. I mean, yeah, Dragon Link can main the Bystials, but again, the standard combo line plays around that. And by the time that, your opponent's turn comes around, you have the Caesar set up, and then you have the Link to take away their normal summon. What are they really gonna do? They're not getting their special summons. You stop in their normal summon. Playing into the board when you're going second, that's a different conversation. I just feel like the Dragon matchup is almost dice rolly for game one, and then as long as you have a good side deck, that's where games two and three really matters more.
Yeah. So, and then we're looking at Branded as an 8%. I think they combine Branded with Chimera Branded, which is fine. Um,
Yeah,
I personally
probably
think
more Chimera though.
yeah, maybe. I know Euros, they have a lot of love for regular branded. And I think regular branded is very good right now. I just think since people are seeing it with tier elements, D barrier is a thing, D barrier go burr. Um,
Hmm.
so
Ash.
I like Chimera branded. More obviously, I mean, as you know, that's what I'm playing, and I think both
Yeah,
are poised to do very well. As you've seen, Alex, the branded Chimera matchup isn't as easy as I think most Unchained players think that it is. When you're playing up
it's
against
not.
someone who knows Unchained pretty well and someone who knows the Chimera matchup pretty well as well. Um, and like
And
I've
can I
told
just say
Alex,
I'm
God.
I was gonna say, can I just say that I'm sick of seeing all these deck profiles that are not playing Dragoon. Play Dragoon.
Hey, no, no, no! Don't give away my sauce. So yeah, if you're playing Branded Chimera, guys, if you are not playing Dragoons, and trust me, I've bricked on the Light Hexo Fusion more times than I care to admit. At locals yesterday, I opened up Branded Fusion, Fallen of Albaz, Fallen of Albaz, Light Hexo Fusion, and those hands just happen. Um, but when you play Chimera Branded, and especially post games 2 and 3, a lot of times they don't want to Ash Blossom your Chimera Fusion, and if they didn't see Dragoons game 1, you just make Dragoons and you're free to go. You're fine. You just keep going, and it just feels great. So definitely look into that. That being said, I'm actually switching up my Chimera branded deck to being a Chimera Runic deck, as I think Runic cards are a little underrated right now, and I don't want to run hand traps. So, but
Mr. Fusions.
yeah. Now, as a branded player, seeing that many Dragon Links is a little sad, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And then we look at the birds and the bees, flow wanderies,
Well,
8%. If you guys don't know, I mean, obviously it's the best deck that can currently play D Shifter, except for Vanquish Soul. If you guys don't know about that, in Vanquish Soul, you're playing Vanquish Soul incorrectly, I believe. But Flow Wanderies is insane. One, it's just very good into Unchained because you don't special summon, and most of their stuff requires you to special summon. Wave King Caesar, Alex, that is only special summon monsters, correct?
yes, and the Link only not the Link 3. The Link 3 can target any monster, but the Link 2 can only do special summon monsters, which is annoying.
Yeah, so you make Impen, and then like the Unchained player, they had to have the trap that pops 1 and 1, and even then, a lot of times that's just not enough. It's not
It's
enough.
not.
So if that deck sees Unchained all day, it's going to be very good, and if it sees D Shifter all day, it's going to be very good, which I think is what we're seeing 8%, as well as Flow Under is just one YCS Cancun, so that's pretty cool. You got anything to say about Flu?
If you play Flu, you're a good player.
That's Alex talk for please stop playing Flu Under Ease. Um, so next deck we have is Vanadium. I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of experience playing into it other than playing against Nate. Nate's somebody who's at our locals. He's a big supporter of Pop.1. We love the dude. As a matter of fact, most regionals I don't even think I'd be able to play in if it wasn't for the fact that he lends me cards because he's a G and one of the nicest people you guys will ever meet. Um,
Yeah, Vanadium has like two things it can do. It pretty much makes the Chaos Angel unaffected with the Dispatter and Barone. And it can also do the turn skip with the hot red chaos thing. Um, in my experience, if you go the hot red route, you tend to not have such a huge board, and you pretty much you either kill your opponent the following turn or you just lose that game. But it's pretty much like an auto win for the most part, nonetheless. But it makes a very, very dangerous board. I can't lie to you.
Yeah. And then we've got the others. So we see things like
And like the winners.
yeah, like Rika, Vanquish Soul. I don't know, God, I don't know what it is about Euros and Rika, but they just love playing that damn deck and they love doing well with it. I think the the Vanquish Soul person, this was his first ever YCS, and to come in second, like, hats off to you, brother. I was watching you Tielemans matchup, and I know you're gonna get see. You probably will never see this, but if you do, I know you saw a lot of people on like Zodiac hating on you and stuff like that. But how many of them have a second place YCS top? I'd venture to say very
Shoot.
fucking few. So you had the likes of like Den Kafam. He's one of the best Sprite players. He was defending you. Like, brother, you did amazing. And somebody who loves Vanquish Soul, it's a deck that I love playing. Props off to you, man, and I'm super proud of you. Um,
Let me
so
pull up his list real quick because if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he played.
he did not
I don't
play
think he
D
played
Shifter.
Shifter. Yeah, he did not
No.
play Shifter. He made an interesting meta call playing the Crows and the Bell. I don't know if I agree with the Bell. I mean, I get it because it's herbs, but the Crow I think was a really really good meta call for this event in particular.
And I think Crow's very, very good for the deck, anyways, because it's an attribute that we want. But
Yep,
Alex, you know that my love for the D shifter in that deck, it's just it auto wins so many things. So, but
I agree with
he
you.
also got second at a YCS, and neither of us did. So what do we know? Um,
What do we know?
so Alex, looking at this breakdown, how does this make you feel for your Unchained deck going into Indy?
So I take it with a grain of salt. Because quite frankly, we have Age of Overlord coming out the day before Indy, and we get the new horse cards, and all those monsters. And what that deck and what that engine does, it takes a deck that I don't see on this top breakdown and makes it a million times better, and that's being Rescue Ace. You get a draw and a added hydrant for free before you even conduct a normal summon, which is just insane. Um, Tier limits actually gets better with that engine because it allows you to search the Synchron because it's a level one fire. Um, and they also have like unique graveyard abilities and things of that nature. I was watching a DB grinder video and Goo Game, and shout out to them. They were playing Anchorsoul, and their opponent was on the tier elements with the new horse cards, and it seemed like it could do some pretty deadly stuff. So I kind of take it with a grain of salt going to Indy because I do expect a somewhat different meta, and I feel like I have to prepare for different decks than what you saw at Dortmund just because of that new set. But even with that being said, like I don't expect a lot of Dragon Link. I do expect, Flannery's, Brandon Chimera. I do expect a lot of tier. So it's kind of helped me like shape and see what to kind of prepare for going into Indy, um, to an extent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and so something that a lot of you guys will take note of is I'm a firm believer at looking at decks that have currently done well and trying to project the future. You guys will see this with the pros, right? It's why their deck lists are never the same. They release their deck list and then you see that they're not playing hand traps. And then sometimes the very next list will be them playing hand traps because they realize, since they were running hand traps, people are behind the curve because they're looking at their decks. They're not playing thrust and talon as much, so they can play those hand traps. So it's one of those things that you just have to bet on what your opponent's going to play. Your deck does really well because it's consistent and it can play a solid package of non-engine. And I know that that's what you and I are going to work towards. You guys might get to see one more podcast before Indy happens. We'll see if we can make that possibly happen for you guys, just to give you guys some thoughts leading up to it, how the new set impacted it, or we think the new set will impact it based off predictions. But I wish I could go to Indy. If I was going to Indy, I would be playing some version of Chimera with talents. I think that deck is bonkers, especially if I predict that hand traps are in the format. Because one, there's not usually just one spot to hand trap me. Usually you have to have two and sometimes three if I've opened up very well to stop my deck. And if you've done that and I have talents, well, you're starting your turn with three cards in hand with me having full knowledge of all of two of them. And you're just not winning the game unless your last card was just the nuts, you know. So
Like W.
yeah, like shut up. So yeah, that's what we're looking at. We don't have any other bigger events going on until then. I don't think we don't have any regionals, unfortunately, coming up, right?
October 11th, for us in particular, is going to be a next regional at one of TCG in Mendenhall, Mississippi. Um, that's going to be the next one. I expect there to be, oh man, probably a little over 100. It's on a Saturday, so I do expect a good bit of people there for that one.
For which one?
The one on November 11th in Mendenhall.
Okay, okay, yeah, that'll be good.
Yeah,
Um,
that'll be right after.
yeah. So we'll get the impacts of Indy, and you guys will definitely see a podcast come out after Indy. We might even try to have Michael Murphy on the podcast as well to talk about his experience. So I think that about wraps up everything that I have for this first podcast. Again, guys, this is the first one. We're going to try and do one about every 2 or 3 weeks, get you guys some updates on what we're thinking personally. And we're going to try and have some people from the team, some other people join us occasionally and talk about their thoughts on Yu Gi Oh! So you guys make sure to look out for that. Alex, you have anything else that you want to talk about before I break it down a little bit?
No, I'm good. Break it down.
All right. So you guys be sure to watch out for that. For the next video that we have coming out, again, we'll try to get it out before Indy. We might not be able to, just depending on our schedules. Alex and I have a lot going on in our lives. And thank you guys so much for joining us. And we really hope to see you guys on the next one, okay?
Have a good one.